What's up everybody, E-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla Minus One box office report. In this one we're going to be talking about the wild headline. I actually can't believe it finally happened, but Godzilla Minus One beat Shin Godzilla at the box office and is on the way to pass $100 million globally. It's going to be a juicy discussion because wow, that's awesome. Starting out, I just wanted to show off this quick piece of art because I thought it was so awesome. I'm going to try and start showing off art at the beginning of all these videos again. And this one comes to us from Tony Stella. This is a Godzilla Minus 1.0/C poster. This is awesome. Godzilla is looking incredible in it. I love the inclusion of the Shinden. I love the inclusion of the Shinsei Maru. This just looks so cool. We're going to be talking a little bit about Godzilla Minus One minus color. It's not going to be the main discussion of the video, but we will talk about it at the end and how it might impact the film moving forward. Also, by the way, if you didn't know, Godzilla Minus One has a black and white restoration that is going to be coming out in theaters. And when I say that, I mean to say that it's not just a desaturated version of the film where they've made it black and white. It is a brand new grade of the film meant to play up the horror elements of the film through black and white that also reportedly has a new sound mix as well. You can go get your tickets for that right now. It'll be coming to America very soon. It's already playing in Japan. I cannot wait for it. By the way, shouldn't that title, based on the way they've written it, read Godzilla Minus One divided by color? Just saying, they didn't write it as Godzilla Minus One minus color. They wrote it as Godzilla Minus One divided by color. Just saying. And I guess technically they also wrote it as Godzilla -1 rather than -1. So let's move on. Fazric Warlock did this Godzillion Dollar meme. I'm never gonna get sick of these. I love these things. Yes, we are on our way to $1 Godzillion. I love it. We're doing great and it's super exciting. Ashish Chanchalani also is excited because he reports that Godzilla Minus One is headed to India very soon, if not already playing, which is pretty hype. The fact that this film has had such a wide international release is so epic, and it makes me wonder what would have happened if Shin Godzilla received this wide of an international release. The movie would have done incredible, I'm sure. We probably would have had a Shin Godzilla 2 in that timeline. And you know what? I'm happy we don't, because I liked Minus One enough to say that I'm glad we didn't get a Shin 2. Piece of Magic Entertainment is also slated to release Godzilla Minus One in France starting on January 17th, so it's actually apparently already playing, which is cool. Now, picking up our box office reports where we left off in the last one, if you haven't seen, I've already done 2 box office reports videos for Godzilla Minus One. I've gotten into the nitty-gritties of the box office, and now we're going to be picking up and moving forward with that discussion. So picking up where we left off on December 21st, Godzilla Minus One passed Shin Godzilla in terms of Japanese yen, where it officially reached 10 billion Japanese yen, whereas Shin Godzilla was sitting at 8.77. That's Japanese yen, and that yen is not equivalent to today's money. At that point in time, Shin Godzilla still had been outgrossing Godzilla Minus One, and to this day, Godzilla Minus One has done worse in Japan than Shin Godzilla did. In the United States, Godzilla Minus One and The Boy and the Heron both did incredibly well, bringing in around $719,000 on Christmas, which was great. On December 26th, the Godzilla Minus One officially passed $40 million, which was very exciting. Godzilla Minus One then landed itself in the top 50 films for the box office for 2023. It has since been bumped to 51 and is currently fluctuating in that range. December 31st saw Godzilla Minus One become the 3rd highest grossing Japanese film of all time in the United States, which was very exciting. Winter break then boosted the box office for Godzilla Minus One during its 9th weekend in Japan, bringing the totals to around $34.5 million with 3.16 million attendance. The film jumped from number 9 at the box office to number 6, and in Japan became the 7th highest grossing film of 2023, the 5th highest domestic film, and the 2nd highest kaiju film since 2013. Once again, shout out to G-Man for his box office reports. They are incredibly helpful, as are the box office reports from Box Office Mojo, BoxOffice.com, Box Office Reports on Twitter, Kaiju News Outlet, and many others who are linked down below, as well as Toho themselves. Toho celebrated their big success heading into the new year, and they're celebrating in big ways, obviously, with the release of the black and white version of the film. I've found Toho's constant excitement over the success of this movie to be very wholesome, as have I found the excitement of the director Takashi Yamazaki. I could not imagine something better for that guy. He just seems so nice. Godzilla Minus One held on to the top 10 in the box office in Japan for 9 weeks in a row, which is an incredible feat. The New Year's holiday weekend in the United States reports that Godzilla Minus One earned $2.97 million for a total of $46 million domestically, Collider then forecasted Godzilla Minus One would pass 100 million worldwide, and it is actively on pace to meet that goal. Despite losing over 785 theaters in the United States, the film only suffered a 10% drop from week to week, showing that the fan base is incredibly strong and will go to support this film. In fact, Godzilla Minus One, speaking of a Godzillion Dollars, has had a bit of a reverse Morbius effect, where every time Toho has been like, okay, that's it, we did the movie, it's been in theaters in the United States, but the theatrical run is over. Every single time they've done that, it's wound up doing so well that they extend the US release. I've gone on the last day over and over again, only to find there are more screenings the next day. I just think it is so exciting and so awesome, and in fact, the most recent time I watched the movie, the theater was still nearly sold out. Although it is a small theater, it's impressive that Godzilla Minus One, despite the fact that I go in the middle of the day during a weekday, can still sell out theaters. That's really crazy. Toho then prepped the Toho Cinemas Hibiya for the premiere of Godzilla Minus One Minus Color. This was going to be held on January 12th. They then celebrated 62 days of success for Godzilla Minus One, as it officially passed the, depending on how you translate it, 15 billion or 5.01 billion yen mark, bringing the attendance to 2.36 million people overall. They then announced Godzilla Minus One Minus Color for MX4D, 4DX, IMAX, along with a 70th anniversary artboard to be released with that version of the film. Godzilla Minus One then became the second highest grossing film in the franchise and the genre overall, and has now become the 14th most attended Godzilla film. Now, I do want to clarify, I am specifically talking about the Japanese market there. Obviously, the United States films have way more international appeal, and so they have the leg up on that. Takashi Yamazaki then celebrated that 15 or 5.01 billion mark. He was very excited about it, and we love to see it. The 10th weekend for Godzilla Minus One brings the attendance to $3.34 million, was then soon to surpass Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla for attendance, with Godzilla Minus One Minus Color to boost the box office back up. Kogyo Tsushin and Eiga reported that Shin Godzilla's box office estimations were actually higher than what we've seen online, bringing the total to around $81.5 million worldwide, rather than the 79.2 that's been reported on places like Box Office Mojo, and that's simply a result of Box Office Mojo not keeping up with the week-to-weeks all the way through Shin Godzilla's run. This means that on January 10th, when Godzilla Minus One was reported to have crossed the $90 million worldwide mark, it had officially and definitively outgrossed Shin Godzilla. That is an incredible feat. I am amazed that happened. If you'll remember back to our first box office report, I was like, there's no way that's gonna happen, and it was because in Japan, the film is doing much worse. Shin Godzilla was just an incredible hit in Japan, and while Godzilla Minus One is a huge hit in Japan, Shin Godzilla was just on an unbeatable level, to the point where I don't know if we'll ever get a Godzilla film anytime soon that does those numbers in Japan. Meanwhile, the international appeal for Godzilla Minus One, aided by a much wider international release, has been way stronger, bringing Minus One's totals much higher than Shin Godzilla's, which is very exciting and does give Toho incentive to continue with this version of Godzilla and this iteration of the franchise. On January 11th, Godzilla Minus One then became the #2 highest grossing Japanese film in the United States, beating Demon Slayer, but still being under Pokemon the first movie. Pokemon the first movie nearly grossed $200 million in the United States. There's no way that Godzilla Minus One is anywhere close to doing that. Godzilla Minus One would be lucky to pass the $100 million mark in the United States, but it's still exciting nonetheless. And it is really crazy to see that Godzilla Minus One has not only been able to compete with all other Japanese films, but specifically with Japanese animation. That's incredible, considering Japanese animation does really well in the United States, often aided by a dubbed release. Pokemon, in fact, is so successful because it was released with an English dub. Not only was it an enormous franchise, but also it was an English dub, making it incredibly accessible for younger people. Godzilla Minus One doesn't have that. It is a subtitled film, and so that's still a very impressive feat for Godzilla Minus One, and without a dubbed release, I don't think it was ever going to do Pokemon numbers in the United States box office. Even with a dubbed release, it might not have done that. Godzilla Minus One Minus Color opens in Japan with 3.39 million people, bringing the global overseas total to 14 billion yen. It brings the total to $97 million. The 97 million, that's a global number. On January 13th, Godzilla Minus One became the first post-COVID international film to cross the $50 million mark in the United States, and became the highest grossing international film in the United States since Parasite. Parasite ended its run in the United States at about 53.3 million, and that was helped by a massive Oscar play. I don't think Godzilla Minus One has received the same kind of art house community support that Parasite did, and with that said, that makes the success of Godzilla Minus One even more impressive. I don't know if Godzilla Minus One is going to squeak out past Parasite in the end, but I wouldn't be surprised given the upcoming release of the black and white version of the film. On January 14th, 14th, Godzilla Minus One was celebrated as becoming the highest grossing Japanese language film in the United States. That is a very specific way to word that literally is referring to a film released in the United States in Japanese, because Pokemon, a Japanese film, was not released in Japanese. That's why it did better. The 11th weekend for Godzilla Minus One in Japan saw the release of Godzilla Minus One Minus Color, and that kept it in the top 10 for 11 weeks in a row. That weekend saw the film reach $36.9 million and also 3.46 million attendees. It is the 13th most attended film in the entire series now. January 16th saw $1.1 million come in for the new holiday weekend, bringing the total in the United States to about $50.97 million. I don't know if we have $3 million left in the tank just because the film is now moving very slowly in the United States, but maybe if everybody goes to see the black and white version, the minus color version, maybe we could see that change. Book your tickets now! Dave Filoni of Star Wars then hosted Godzilla Minus One, a screening for the film, with Takashi Yamazaki for a Q&A at Lucasfilms, and that is Takashi Yamazaki's biggest dream. Yamazaki wants to direct an upcoming Star Wars film and is very passionate about that style, that genre, and that franchise. That's just a really nice thing for Yamazaki. On January 19th, we saw 3.5 million attendees, making Godzilla Minus One the 7th highest grossing and most attended film in Japan for 2023. G-Man then pointed out a discrepancy where Box Office Mojo has stopped updating Godzilla Minus One's Japanese gross in real time, meaning that future reports will be inaccurate. This is the same thing that happened with Shin Godzilla, and so our totals are going to be a couple million off unless Box Office Mojo starts to get on their game a little better. Godzilla Minus One is set to officially end its theatrical run in the United States once and for all on February 1st, both in color and in black and white. That seems like it'll be the definitive date, so you still have a lot of time to go see the film. There's plenty of time to get into theaters, to go see this movie, to support the black and white version. You've got this. Get out there. The black and white version is gonna only play for about 1 week. It's gonna start playing next Thursday on the 25th, and it will end 1 week later on the 1st, so get out there while you still have time. There's a little over a week to see this movie, and if enough of us rally, we can still beat some of these box office goals that we're fighting for. Toho celebrated the success of Godzilla Minus One with a thank you post and an announcement for the release of Godzilla Minus One Minus Color in the United States. Seeing that version of the film released in the United States is something I really did not think they were gonna do, but obviously there is enough demand for it to bring it to the US. That shows huge initiative on Toho's part and also shows Toho as being more receptive to the global box office, to the global market, and to the United States specifically than they have ever been before. I wouldn't be surprised if after Godzilla Minus One is all said and done, Toho starts to have a little more active involvement in the United States and takes on a bit more of a leadership role in the Godzilla project scene in the MonsterVerse. As of right now, Godzilla Minus One has $98 million in the worldwide market. That is such an awesome number. I really hope we can get it to 100 million. That would be so cool. About where the future of Godzilla's headed, well, G-Man warned that a physical release might be a bit further out than we may hope. Japan moves very slow with their physical releases. With Shin Godzilla, there was an 8-month wait for the physical release in Japan, and then about an extra 4 months after that in the United States. Now, some countries might get a very rushed physical release before the US or before Japan, but Japan likes to take their time because they love to fill those things up with bonus features. There's still a big market for that in Japan. I don't have a huge expectation that we'll get a Godzilla Minus One release in the United States on physical media in any meaningful capacity anytime soon. We have additional information about the budget for Godzilla Minus One. X-Trend reports that the budget for the film is actually way closer to 10 million US dollars than even the 15 million estimates we got. Previous reports from director Takashi Yamazaki said it was under 15 million, but above 7 million. I've got the article linked down below. They reported that Godzilla Minus One and Shin Godzilla both had a 10 million US dollar budget. It makes it even more incredible that the crew was able to pull off such an incredible film. It's important to acknowledge that this film was created off the back of a lot of incredibly hard labor that was not rewarded financially for the work that was done. The Japanese film industry as a whole, this has nothing to do with Godzilla Minus One, it has nothing to do with Toho. Some fanboys are taking it as a personal attack. You should take it as a personal attack. You should take it as an attack against director Takashi Yamazaki, his incredibly talented crew, and the incredibly talented cast in the film. That's what you should be doing. I'm not saying attack Toho. I'm saying that the entire Japanese film industry needs to be raised to higher standards, as a lot of people working in the Japanese film industry do not make a livable wage. A lot of the people who worked on Godzilla Minus One did not make a wage worthy of their work. That's why we need to bring this up. It's important to mention, and it's important to hope that in the future, the entire industry in Japan can raise themselves to a higher standard. Godzilla Minus One was not made for $10 million because that's how much it would have been made for in the United States. It probably would have been like a $70 million film in the United States. It was made for $10 million because it was made off the back of people who did not get paid for the work that they did. And that's an issue with every film in Japan, not just Godzilla. You see it especially in the animation industry right now. The other thing that's important to mention is that we are on track to get a sequel to Godzilla Minus One, and that is so freaking exciting. We've slowly watched as Yamazaki has gone from being like, I don't really want to make a sequel, I wasn't planning on it, I've got other projects to work on, to now in a recent video posted by Shinimato Ure, it's a featurette on Godzilla Minus One, Takashi Yamazaki revealed he does have desires for a sequel. He's kind of formulating a plan for it. We've seen a lot of quotes of his pop up in articles and interviews as of late, which indicate that he's thinking of a story, he kind of knows the direction he wants it to head, and coming off the back of the Lucasfilm premiere, it seems like Yamazaki's kind of got a bit of an idea of where he'll take things and is excited about the potential to continue with Godzilla. And I really hope he does, because I loved his vision and I would love to see him back. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for the support on these videos. I really appreciate it. Let's keep fighting to keep Minus One in the box office race. It'll be so much fun to support the film over the last week. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for all their support. It is through the support of the Patreon that I'm able to continue making videos like this for you guys in the first place. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.